Hello dear friends, welcome to Easy English 2020. I'm Riyaz Majid, your host, and today we are going to talk about something very important. As we have already discussed that we're going to do this structured English speaking course, and today is the first introductory section to that course. Before we embark on the main topics of the course, I think it important that I should inform you about a few things that we should know very well. You know, when it comes to English speaking, and that too when it comes to English speaking by the students, by the educated class, our standards have to be different. Our standards have to be better, and we have to be grammatically correct somehow. Somehow we have to be grammatically correct because that's so important. And the first thing that I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about verb. You know, there are a couple of lectures, there are a few lectures already on my channel that I expect you to watch carefully so that you understand the basics of English language, the basic concepts of these grammar. Like there is noun, there is pronoun, there is adjective, there is adverb, and there is verb as well, but I would think it proper to give it a quick revision, quick recap, so that we have a fresh look of it in order to understand the importance of verb in English language. For myself, I believe that verb is the heart of English language. Whatever you do, whatever transitions, whatever transfers, whatever transformations take place in language, it's usually the verb that undergoes these changes. For that reason, it's imperative for us, it's so important for us to have a fresh and a new understanding of the verb, its definition, its nature, how does it work, what are the types. The first thing is there is a misconception. If we go by the traditional definition of the verb, there is a misconception. And the misconception is that we associate word verb with things that show action, that show us some sort of work done. But that has led to a lot of confusion, that has led to a lot of misconception among the learners of English language. So for that reason, I think it important, I think it necessary that we should try to understand, we should try to decode this verb. That I strongly believe is the heart of the language. If you want to understand English language as a student, as a learner, as an educated person, as a literate person, then you have to understand the importance of verb. The first thing, as I said, is that if we go by the traditional definition, the traditional definition says that verb is a word that shows action. You see, I have been conducting classes across different forums. Even at the international level, it has made a bit of debate when I talk about verb. Whenever I ask the question, what is verb? The answer is majority of the people, 99% of people, they will come up with the answer. Even the teachers of English language, they will come up with the answer that verbs are words that show action. Fair enough. I don't have any problems when you say that verb shows action. But my problem is that verb does not show action only. There are so many things that the verb shows, that the verb talks about. If we shrink it, if we limit it to this definition of action, then it's a bit confusing. For example, there are certain situations where, for example, if I write an example here, I like running. Now, what happens here is when we ask any student of English language that what is or which is the verb in this sentence, 99% of the students, majority of the students will say that running is the verb. This is where the problem begins. Why do they say so? They say so because they are guided by the definition that they have been listening to, that they have been given, that verbs are words that show action. That's why they'll say running is the verb. But in actuality, in truth, in this sentence, running is not the main verb. The main verb is word like, which seemingly does not show any action. The action certainly is shown by the word running. But running is not the main verb here. The verb is like. So this is where the problem begins. When I ask students which word is the verb, they'll say running. But I say no, it's not the verb. The verb in this sentence is like. So that's why I say that we have to be a little careful when we talk about the verb. We have to understand it. We have to try to re-establish, redefine it in a way so that it does not confuse us. Say another example I give here is this is a pen. Now, which word is the verb here? Word is. Yes, is the verb here. But then again, an intelligent student will definitely ask me that if is the verb here, what is the action performed? No action. Certainly no action. What we call the work, there is no work performed in this sentence by the verb is. And then there would be another category of the students who will say that is not the verb. It's a helping verb. It's an auxiliary. Which again leads to us a new, confusion. Again, the students are a bit confused. What's this? Is this a helping verb? Is, am, are, was, were, do, does. Are these helping verbs only? They certainly are auxiliaries. They certainly are helping verbs, but only in limited situations. They cannot be auxiliaries everywhere. And if you read any given text, you'll find it that most of the places, even these auxiliaries that we consider as helping verbs, in most of the texts and the contexts, they function as main verbs. There are some limited situations where they function as auxiliaries or helping verbs. We'll be talking about these limited situations as well. Where do they function as auxiliaries, as helping verbs, and when is it that they work as main verbs? That I believe that their bigger function is to function as main verbs, because their auxiliary performing role is limited to certain situations, I say. We'll be talking about these things. Let's confine our talk to verb right now. So I was saying that verb is not action only. There are so many things that the verb talks about. And what are these things? The first thing, I agree, action. Verbs are words that show action. For example, I play cricket. I run fast. I walk swiftly. I eat food. I write letters. I jump up high. In all these sentences that I spoke right now, in all these sentences, certainly, without any doubt, the verbs that I used. For example, I used the word run. I used the word jump. I used the word walk. I used the word eat. I used the word write. All these verbs definitely show some sort of action, some sort of work done. But is it same everywhere? Do all the verbs show action? Not really. Let's take up some other example of verb. For example, if I say, I like bananas. I like bananas. When I say I like bananas, the word like is the verb in this sentence. I like bananas. Now the thing is, the question would be, what is the action performed? Is there any action performed really? Certainly not. This time I use this word to express my feeling. So verbs are also used to express feelings. Some other examples of this sort. I love birds. I hate liars. I admire his work. I adore her so much. In all these words, in all these verbs, what you saw is that there is no action at all. What's called action, the work done. Is there any? No. But what do these verbs do? These verbs help you to express your feelings about certain things or certain situations. Wow. So action, and the next one I said is feeling. Now another type. I say, for example, I have a pen. Or I say, I have a car. She has a lot of money. He had a lot of money, but he wasted it. Now this time I use three verbs. I used the word has, I used the verb have, and I used the word had. Now, do these verbs show any kind of action? Again, that confusion may arise. Has, have, and had, they are helping verbs. They are auxiliaries. They certainly are, but in some other situation, not in the sentences that I quoted here. I have, she has, he had. In these sentences, these verbs actually express the possession, some sort of belonging. These words function like, I use another verb here. For example, I say, I own a large house. This house is owned by Mr. Jack. So what you see, this word has, have, had, own, these verbs now show the possession. That's another thing of it. And now coming to another part. Where else does verb act differently, not showing what's usually referred to as action. This time I use the very simple word, the simplest word that could be there. This is a pen. Is. I am a teacher. Am. They are students. Are. We are human beings. Are. He was my friend. Was. They were my students. Were. So this time I'm using a different set of verbs. Again, you may think auxiliaries. They are. But not in these sentences that I read out right now. I am a teacher. This is a pen. They were my friends. He was my colleague. What do all these verbs show now? Do they show any action? Again, no, they do not show action. This time, these verbs or words express a state of being. They express existence of something, state of being. So verbs are also used to express state of being. Verbs do not show action only, they also show, they are used to express feelings, they are also used to talk about existence, state of being, they are also used to talk about possessions. Let's take some other example as well. Verbs, a different set of verbs now. I need water. I want some money. Now, word need, want, or I wish to go. You have a different set of verbs now that do not talk about, action. They show something different. You use these verbs to express your desire. So let's say that verbs are not the words that show action only. There could be other verbs as well that may show something different. As I said, possessions, existence, desires, feelings. So the first thing that I want you to come clean on, the first thing that I want you to do all the confusions away is the definition of the, because it is so misleading. It's so misleading usually when we say that verbs are words that show action. They show action, but that's not all. There are many more things. A few of them I mentioned, and there could be some more as well, where the verbs show altogether different things. So if I'm asked to define verb, I'll say verbs are words that we use to talk about actions, to talk about feelings, to talk about possessions, to talk about existence, to talk about desires, and many more. That's the definition of the verb. That's how we go. Let's not confine it to the actions. Because if we go by that definition, then there are so many confusions that will always be there in our mind. And let me tell you something. How is it that we are able to identify a verb? There is something very simple usually that will help you to identify a verb. You know, there are so many verbs. There are so many nouns. There are so many adjectives, and there are so many adverbs. Do we know them all? Do you know them all? Do I? For myself, I'll say, no, I don't know every verb. I don't know every noun. I don't know every adjective. I don't know every adverb. But one thing is for sure. If you know the words, or even if you don't know them, you can identify them. There is one simple thing that you could do that will help you most of the time. That verb, the main verb, is usually the word that follows the verb. That follows the subject. As I said, verb is the heart of the language. Verb is heart of the language, especially for language learners. We have to be very clear about it. So one thing that will help you to identify the verb is, as I said, that it usually, most of the time, it follows the subject. As I said, I work hard. I is the subject and work is the verb. He intrigues me. Now see, I'm using a word that maybe some of you may not be aware of. I'm using the word intrigue, I-N-T-R-I-G-U-E. Intrigue. What's it to intrigue? Is it a noun or is it a verb? See, I cannot say whether it's a noun or a verb. But when I put it into a sentence, when it follows the subject, it definitely is a verb. He intrigues me. His actions intrigue me. So, I used the same word as a noun and as well as a verb. You saw it, I said, he intrigues me. When I say he intrigues me, I use it as a verb. His actions intrigue me. Here, the word action is the verb. Why? Because it immediately follows the subject, and that's what usually it is. Usually, most of the times, the subject is followed by the verb. That is how you should do it when you speak or when you write. The verb should follow the subject, and there is only one exception, that it's usually either an auxiliary or an adverb gets between the subject and the main verb. So this is what I will say. I like running. Like is the verb. Why? Because it is under the direct control of the subject. It's under the direct control of the subject, and that's what makes it the verb. So the first thing that I want you to understand is, try to understand this verb. And now let me talk a little about the auxiliaries. What we usually commonly are called as helping verbs. What are helping verbs? What are auxiliaries? You know, the whole language, as I said, it's all about verbs. It's about the main verb, it's about the auxiliary verb. At times it's about the regular verb and irregular verb, transitive verb and intransitive verb. So let's talk a little about these auxiliaries. What are these auxiliaries? When do they function as auxiliaries? I'll give a few things that I would like you to remember. For example, we usually think that is, am, and are. Is, am, are, was, and were are the helping verbs. Yes, they are. But should I tell you that they will function as helping verbs only when they have this form of verb with them? Ing form of the verb. When is, am, are, was, and were, when they are in combination with ing form of the verb, that's when they'll function as helping verbs. The moment they move out of this situation, they move out of this combination, they move out of the order of these words, the order, he is running, subject, followed by is, am, are, was, were, and then ing form of the verb. This is the order. In this order, in this situation, they'll function as auxiliaries. They'll function as helping verbs. The moment they move out of this situation, the moment they move out of this combination, the moment they move out of this word order, they won't be helping verbs anymore. Most probably, they'll be functioning then as main verbs. For example, I said, he is walking. So, is walking. He is walking. In this sentence, is functions as an auxiliary, as a helping verb, and walking is the main verb. But if I take it out from here, he is a worker. Now you see, is not followed by ing form of the verb, and hence it's not a helping verb. This time it is the main verb. It's not the helping verb, it's not an auxiliary here. I hope you understand, and same is the case with am, are, was, were. When they are in combination with ing form of the verb, in this order, they'll function as helping verbs. But the moment they move out of it, when the combination is not the same, they are not auxiliary verbs, they are not helping verbs. I hope you understand it and you remember it. Next is has, have, and had. Has, have, and had. They also function as auxiliaries, primary auxiliaries. They also function as what we call as helping verbs. But when? When do they function as helping verbs? So simple and so plain to understand. They'll function as helping verbs when they have usually third form of the verb with them. He has finished the work. I have eaten food. He has written a letter. They have finished their work. So when they have third form of the verb, they'll function as auxiliaries, primary auxiliaries, helping verbs, or when they fall in perfect continuous tense. For example, has been, have been, had been working, and ing form. This is another situation where they will function as auxiliaries, where they will function as helping verbs. Has, have, had, and third form of the verb, perfect tense. Whether it is present or past or future at times, they'll function as auxiliaries, as helping verbs. and they'll function as auxiliaries or helping verbs when they go into perfect continuous tense. Take them out of these situations. Take them out of these combinations. Take them out of these orders. They won't be functioning as helping verbs, but they'll function as main verbs. As I gave you a couple of examples. I have a pen. She has a lot of money. He had a lot of money, but he squandered it away. So, the thing that we have to remember here is that auxiliary verbs are auxiliary verbs, but in limited situations, not in every situation. They are different. They are entirely different when they are taken out of these situations. So that's something about the auxiliaries. The auxiliaries that you know, they will not function always as primary auxiliaries or helping verbs. Sometimes they could function as main verbs. This is one more characteristic that you have to be very careful about. And then there is one more thing that I have seen, that lots of speakers, lots of learners of English language, they commit mistakes. That's a regular verb and irregular verb. What is a regular verb and what is an irregular verb? This is the simplest thing that you could remember. A regular verb, I'll tell you very simple without wasting time. A regular verb is one to which we add ed form, ed, sorry. A regular verb is one to which we add ed to make new verb forms. For example, walk. You add ed to it and it becomes walked. And then ed to it, it becomes worked. First form, second form and third form. Play. You add ed to it, played. You add ed to it, played. For example, you take these verbs where you are allowed to add ed and make new verb forms are called regular verbs. And there is a set of verbs that do not behave in this manner. They behave a little differently. They do not take ed. You cannot add ed to them to make new verb forms. In the regular forms, root word usually stays the same. You do not change the root word. But in case of irregular verbs, the root word often undergoes a change. It gets vanished. For example, write, wrote, written. Second form is wrote, third is written. Eat, ate, eaten. So there is a set of verbs where you cannot add ed to the basic form, to the root form to make new verbs. The root word usually undergoes the change. Sometimes it does not. For example, cut, cut, cut. That's why I say it's better to remember that you cannot add ed. The root word stays there, but you cannot add ed to it. Put, put, put. You cannot add ed to it. And at times teach, taught, taught. So the thing is, what are irregular verbs? Simple to remember is that verbs to which we cannot add ed to make new verb forms are called irregular verbs. And then there are some regular verbs and there are some irregular verbs. But there is a good news as well. You don't have to bother about it. What do I do now? How do I know which verbs are regular and which ones are irregular? I'll tell you, irregular verbs are very limited in number. Very limited, so limited that I can provide you a list of, I'll be uploading that on our channel, a list of irregular verbs. You can just drop your comments, ask for the list, and I can just send it to your WhatsApp as well. So irregular verbs are the verbs to which we cannot add ed. So that was something about the verbs. And then there is one more thing. Transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. What's a transitive verb and what's an intransitive verb? A transitive verb is one in which the subject acts on an object, where the action is transferred, where the action passes from subject to object. For example, I pushed. I pushed the boat. I pulled. I pulled the boat. So the action goes from subject to object. I kicked the ball. Action goes from subject to object. I drew the curtain. Subject to object. Action gets transferred. So verbs where you need an object to complete the meaning. Why do you need an object? Because the action is transferred. It passes from subject to object. That's why they are called transitive. Transitive means mobile. Transitive means that moves from one place to another. Whereas intransitive means immobile, not movable. Intransitive, where the action happens, stays within the subject. He slept. She wept. He laughed. So the action happens within the subject. You don't need an object to complete your meaning, because the meaning gets completed within the subject. So a transitive verb is a verb where the action passes from subject to the object. That's why the object is required. While as an intransitive verb is one in which the action happens within the subject and no object is needed to complete the meaning. So that's something about the verb, and I wish that you try to understand it. And if you have any questions and queries, please feel free to drop your comments in the comment box in the channel. Drop your number. If you have any issues, if you have any questions and queries, please feel free. I'll always be available to respond to your queries. But I wish that you go through this meaning of the verb, understanding of the verb, because it's all about the verb. I repeat, learning language is all about verb. Learning grammar is all about verb. Rest can be treated as, bits and pieces of vocab. The main, the shift and the change and the transformation and the, transaction of the grammar is all about verb. Rest can be treated as, I said, bits and pieces of vocab. So please, friends, go through this, listen to it, repeat a couple of times if needed. Try to understand what I'm saying, because this is what we are going to do. This is what is going to help us. When you do the tenses, what are tenses all about? What are tenses all about? Tenses are all about verbs. Tenses are all about auxiliaries, helping verbs. What is voice change? Active voice, passive voice. Again, it's about verbs. What is narration? It's all about verbs. Pronouns don't undergo change. Adjectives do not change. Adverbs at times do. So it's all about the verbs. So if you know the verb well, if you know the auxiliaries well, and then there are some more verbs that we'll be talking about. The gerunds, the infinitives, non-finite verbs. That's other part of it. We'll be doing that at a later stage. But first of all, we have to understand it. And I would like you to remember one thing for sure, that verbs usually follow the subject. They are usually immediately after the subject. So I want you to understand it very clearly. And I hope you enjoyed the lecture. You will go through it. And if you have any questions and queries, please drop your comments in the channel comment box. And don't forget to subscribe, to hit the bell icon. And I'll be coming up very soon with the next lecture. That's going to be the first conversational lecture of English language. Till then, stay home, stay safe, stay happy. Bye-bye and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.